Hi, good morning. It's Sunday, guys. Welcome to the maverickstar Observatory. I'm Gene. I wanted to, in this video, approach this COVID-19 in a different angle. Now, I'm not interested in this video in the death rate or the spread rate of the infection, the R0 rate. I'm interested in something a little bit else. And in a few minutes, we're going to get into that. Before we do, as always, big thanks to those that are supporting the observatory over the last couple of days. I will say this, I have never seen this before, guys. The funding was silent as anything. It was like there weren't no wind blowing, you couldn't hear the waves, nothing yesterday. And I haven't experienced a day like that for probably, 12 months. Not even a $1 donation. That's how bad it was yesterday. But let's hope things pick up, because we're trying to reach a mountain at the end of this month by trying to improve the content, by raising the money to get some decent equipment. And trust me, guys, we need it. This laptop is on that I use for all the rendering of the data that we collect, and in some respects I am rendering like 500 data sets in Excel of data, and that really does put the pressure on that CPU. We need to replace it. It's as simple as that, and we need to replace it with something adequate that is going to see us for at least the next 5 years to come. And not only that, improve the content of these videos, and in turn that means it becomes more watchable to more wider audience, and we get more subscribers, and hopefully we get a little bit more revenue. That means we can do a lot more than what we do. It's common sense, isn't it, guys? It's logic. So, I hope that you will support us. Okay, so what do I want to focus on then in this video with regards to COVID-19? Something nobody else is talking about. And you guessed it. You know me, I always come from the other angle of things. Now, what we're looking at is the death rates, the confirmed rates, the recovered and the infections, and the percentage of the deaths, and this, that and the other. But there's something else hidden in here that hasn't even been clearly mentioned, yet is absolutely visible. And trust your old boy Gene, don't want to talk about it with you guys. Okay, so regardless of how lethal this pandemic is, regardless of how governments are putting down deaths of other incidences down to COVID-19 and just boosting up the figures, and it doesn't matter. There's something else more important, and what that is policy that is being changed, which infects industries across the world. And not only that, something more important: time. You see, because these figures show something else. If we look at America, they've got on average 300 million people population. We know in the UK, we're just going to use these for two examples, 60 million population. If we look at the confirmed cases of COVID-19 in these two countries, the US is just under 3 million and the UK is just around the 315,000, 316,000 number. What that tells us is that, let's say, we began to see infected people in January, and we're now at the end of June, beginning of July. That is around about 6 months time period. Do the math. If in America there is only 3 million people that have been confirmed with COVID-19, and there is a population of 300 million, and in 6 months it's taken that time to get round 3 million people, there's been 131 deaths as associated to that, then it tells us an indication of how long COVID-19, but more importantly, I'm not bothered about the virus, I'm on about the policies that are crippling businesses around the world, and soon to be disturbing everybody's life as a result, and if not already. So we have got probably 10 years of this. That's what this tells us, that whoever, whether it was a purpose done thing, it's been driven, someone's profiting on it, they've got an open window of around 10 years. Because in order to get the whole population through COVID-19. These policies are going to be there to prevent, people catching it for that period of time. Now, what does that mean? It means red across the balance sheets of all businesses for at least 10 years, which in turn will turn out to be a super recession, which will at some point affect us all. And I'm seeing it right now. I'm seeing people in my own street sell the cars, the second car, to keep their heads above water, to reduce the monthly outgoings, and I dare say you are too. But more to the point, we are seeing farmers now, having to throw the crops because they couldn't get the labour from other countries to come in and pick it. This is just the beginnings of the policies that brings down this modern infrastructure, and it isn't resilient to this, I can guarantee you. Whether that is by design remains to be seen, but the point is this: from the figures that have been infected over the time period of the last 6 months, we have probably more than 10 years of this shit to still put up with. So my angle on this is time and policy being driven by the governments. And if you look at the industries, so in this country we're trying to release a bit of that lockdown tension by relaxing some of the laws that we've had to put up with over the last few months. Most of the shops you go in now here in the UK have like an armoured defence of plastic around the tills, protecting the staff and in turn, so they say, protecting us. We've got one-way walking systems around the shops, and of course we are social distancing now, not by 2 meters but by 1. This is a joke, and I'm qualified to tell you as a scientist that this is an absolute joke. If this virus is what they say it is, then a social distance of 1 meter is pathetic. You've got to realise, right, what we are dealing with. If this is what they say it is, we are dealing with a biological hazard. Yeah, in a class 3 laboratory dealing with biological and chemical substances, you would have a full-on hazmat suit, air-fed from an outsourced site, and you would have to go through decontamination rooms to remove and put that equipment on. So your 1 meter distancing with your cheap flimsy mask just doesn't really cut it if what you're saying this virus is capable of. Especially as we know we are dealing with an airborne virus. Now you might start to realise you are seeing on the news media a lot of these meat packing plants having to shut down because out of the 200 staff, 100% of them are testing positive for COVID-19. And you might put the pieces together. It's simple as this. It's a breeding ground. Yeah. If you're working with certain substances in a laboratory, there was a flesh-eating virus in this country. I've done some work on how hospitals could probably contain these regions of main outbreaks with this product that we was working on called a Virobax strip. What that incorporated was mixing pig's blood with chocolate. Simple, because the virus thrived on it. And what we would do is put these virus strips around and then, take them back to the laboratory, test them. If there was active substance on there, then where you could put more of these virus strips there as well in that region, and just find out how bad of a problem you got and then deal with it by decontaminating it. And what I'm seeing right now and what the government are suggesting, and with all the poor testing and everything else, it's just not adequate enough if you are really dealing with something as bad as what they are making it out to be. But then you have to ask yourself the question, if it isn't as bad as what it is, and there is a policy and a framework which is going to last another 10 years, then what is the agenda behind all this at the end of the day? Because one thing for sure we know is that it is crippling and destroying businesses, and in turn destroying people's lives. Farmers, shops, manufacturing, entertainment, clothing and textiles, airlines and travel, you name it, has been hit by this. And you can't, to recover millions of pounds of losses is not easy in business, especially when you are slicing them margins down nice and thin to make yourself competitive. We live in a free market, yeah. You either sell quality for a high price, or you sell, a product, a reasonable product for a reasonable price. And there's your competitiveness. But right now, it doesn't matter what your product is or what line your product's in. You're just not getting access to what you need, and that is the people that are buying. You imagine how much has been lost this year. If you remember when it first started to take hold, I was well on the board. I said, you know what, we're going to see in a few weeks' time people flocking to the shops and stockpiling food. And lo and behold, I was right. And what we're going to see next is businesses, and I know what's going on now. Nobody wants to give up. No one, when things were so good last year and there was profit being made, nice profit, and this year you're faced with this and you think to yourself, oh, you know what, we can take it. We had a little bit banked away. We can put that back into the business and we'll get over this. Are you ready to stick it out for the next 10 years? I would. In a lot of circumstances, if I was in some of these industries, I would be looking to shut it down right now. Take what you can right now, because if you are a businessman that has had experience in businesses and when things have changed, the climate isn't sunny anymore and it's starting to get a bit rainy and thundery, and you look at what you own within that business, look at your assets, maybe it is a time now to pull back something for yourself before you lose everything, and everything you've got as well with it. So, we are going to be seeing it. Right now, farmers have lost crops all around the world, not just due to the fact that they can't get people in the ground. They've been hit with a double whammy, just like our Earth, with the grand solar minimum and the magnetic reversal producing the same thing, cosmic rays, same thing's going on. It's not just the fact that these farmers can't get the gear out of the ground, the food. It's that they are now in a position where they're having to, take some loans out to try and have a go next year, or what's remaining in the year left, at something that they know they can make money on. This is going to lead to them inevitably losing their farms. If the policies are in place where government officials come in and shut them down, they ain't going to be able to do business. And if the governments aren't prepared to, subsidise them in any form or manner, then they're going to go under. And there is the beginning of the grand food reduction of supply on this planet. It's a strange year. 2020 has hit the road running with global protests, with George Floyd, global pandemics. What will be the next global economic slowdown and recession? It's going to be a global year, guys. Trust me. This is just the beginning. Global climate change, global economic collapse, global pandemics. It's like we are watching the 7 vials being tipped on the earth before our eyes. You got to laugh about it, guys, because it's like the synchronicity is insane. But in this video, I wanted to point you out something. It ain't going nowhere. If the population of the United States is 300 million and they've only had 3 million go through it, that's only 3% that we've achieved in 6 months. So we have got a long road ahead of us. Same in the UK. And on top of that, it's the policies more than the virus and the spread rate and anything else which is going to cripple the countries around the world financially. So I'm just saying to you, prepare for a super economic downturn, a super crisis relating to, a global economic slowdown. It's going to affect everything. Property prices, pensions, we're going to see the lot turned out in the coming years, guys. We're just entering the room and taking a look round, and we've just worked out that we're in a horror house. This isn't what we wanted to see. We wanted to see some nice sunshine, some margaritas, a beach full of nice beds. We can all choose where we want to go, a little stroll into the sea, and then we're all going back into the hotel for a great meal. It ain't going to happen, I'm telling you now. Well, guys, it's a Sunday. You know me, I like to come out with, look at things at a different angle and bring it to your attention. And, you really want to pay attention to what I'm saying, because, sometimes I'm right about these things. Guys, if you want to help support what we do at the observatory, despite all what's going on, if you want to help support us in continuing to bring the data back on these anomalies that the governments don't no longer talk about, it's like they don't exist. It's like, magnetic reversal. What is it? What's it all about? It's that sort of thing. They're not interested. They can't afford to. I think personally that they can't afford to keep going anymore themselves. And the government's spending the money on more corrupt things than ever. So, if you want to support an observatory, that will probably keep you informed with regards to the anomalies that we do. The links are down there. Support us on Patreon or PayPal. But I will say one thing, guys. We will try our best, always here at the observatory, to keep a reasonable service going, regardless. And I know what some people are going to think when they hear that. Well, we don't need to fund it then, do we? Well, we can always have that one day, where we turn around and say we've had to flick the switches off on everything, guys, and call it a day until, till the climate gets better, which we know is never going to happen, is it? So, have an amazing day, guys. Hopefully you found it interesting, this video, and as always, bye for now.